Okay, we're now on the Windows machine. I've got File Explorer up. I've got a special area, a special folder called the VRR demo area, which has three folders. Backup for just saving backups. Program area has all the executables and DLLs for the VRR, and the video area has the videos that I've created. And then we have a shortcut to the app itself. So let's go ahead and launch it. And we'll make it full screen. So I'm not going to talk about all of these various options. There are lots of other videos out there that will do that. So I'm not going to make this video extremely long talking about all the options. This video is just to show how quickly you can encode a video file to a MIDI file. So the first thing we want to do is open the video file. And that is going to be in our video area. And that's entertainer.mp4. Okay, so here is the video that we created showing the raw tracker bar, and then following that is the actual paper going over the tracker bar. The first thing we want to do is create the calibration. So we want to locate all the 88 holes. So we want to make sure that our number of holes is set properly, which is 88, and we'll click Start Tracker Calibration. We have two algorithms available. We just added an enhanced one, and that's the one we want to use. So yes, we want to use the new and improved. So the help says, click mouse pointer to the left and slightly below the first tracker bar hole that you want to recognize. Do not click inside the hole itself. Okay, so this is the first hole. So we'll go to the left and a little bit below. Clicked it. Now click mouse to the right of the last tracker hole. Do not click inside of any tracker bar hole. Okay. This is the last hole. So we will click to the right of it. It's asking me, are there additional holes to be captured? I don't care about the hole for starting rewind, so I'll just say no. And so now it says the red box shows the capture area for each hole. The hole width and height have been adjusted to the capture area, so the capture area should cover the entire hole. Manually adjust if necessary. Okay. So it also turned on calibration lines automatically. If we turn this off, we see the holes, we turn it back on. So the red area does pretty much cover the holes. And so it set the hole width and hole height to about 10 pixels. Just with my experience of using the VRR app, I know that to get really good results, these should be slightly bigger. So I'm just going to set these to 13 and 13. But you can dynamically change this as it's running to adjust if necessary. The next thing we want to do is we want to go basically in the middle of the roll that we recorded and see if everything is still lined up. So we've got 6840 frames. So let's go to frame approximately 3400, which should be right in the middle of the song. And we can hit start playing. And so when the app detects a hole, the whole area will turn to a teal color. And we can see that there are nothing, oh, there's one that was changed. But what I want to look at really right now is how are the holes aligning with the scan area. So in the middle, it's pretty close. It's very close, actually. But off to the right, you can see that the holes are a little bit too far to the left. So I'm going to move these holes, starting at about hole 64, all of them 1 or 2 pixels to the right. So I'm going to enter Enhanced Calibration Mode. And we just added a new feature where if you use the Shift key, you can move a whole bunch of holes, which we're going to do. So let's select hole 64. And I'm going to hold the Shift key and I'm going to click it a couple times. And you can see the holes are moving to the right. So now we've got things pretty well lined up. Let's go ahead and continue to start playing. See if we can hit any notes on the far right side here. There, those are pretty good. So let's pause that. So let's look on the left side, and we can see that the left side is a little bit too far to the right. So let's select like hole 20, and I'll do a Shift Control, double click. That'll move things over to the left. And that's probably good enough. I see hole 20 itself is really close to hole 19. I'm going to move it to the right just a little bit so we get some separation. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to set our levels for when a note on is detected and a note off is detected. So the levels go between 0 and 100, and 0 is pure black or pure darkness, and 100 is as bright as possible. So right now it's set for 44 is the lowest. If any area that's 44 or darker, it'll show up as a note on. Well, again, using enhanced calibration, I can select an area that should be on, like note 51 here, and you can see up in the information area that note 51's brightness is 51. I can also, if I turn off enhanced calibration, I can click Calculate Note Level Help. Let's clear the info. And so what it did is it just scanned all 88 notes, and it found the darkest area to be 47.8 and the brightest area to be 65.1. Well, I'm going to pick a number that's kind of like right in the middle for the darkest area, and let's say that's about 56. So that's going to be our note on level. And again, past experience has told me that the note off level should be very close to the note on level, at least for the type of scans I do. So I'm just going to set that at around 60. And so now let's go ahead and start playing. And as you can see, everything is turning teal every time a hole or perforated holes go over the tracker scan area. So this looks pretty good. So let's pause that. So the next thing I need to do is to load the mapping file. And the mapping file contains, what MIDI command is going to be sent when hole number 1 is turned on and hole number 2 all the way through hole number 88. So I've already created that because it does take a little bit of time to do it. But once you've done it one time for your particular machine, you can save it and you'll never have to do it again. Let's go ahead and look at it. And so the map file is called nickelodeon.map. That's what I named it. And so actually, we build 3 separate MIDI files. one for what we call dedicated hardware, one is for Windows, and one is for encryption. And the encryption is for systems where the MIDI installer has changed the codes for each system he installs. And so that's what that's for. So obviously, in order to use that, you'll need to get what the encryption or scramble codes are from the MIDI installer, or figure it out yourself. The Windows area creates a MIDI file that can be played on Windows. And so all the channels and notes, usually what I like to do is only map the ones that pertain to the piano. So the O roll that is being used on this Nickelodeon, the piano keys start at hole number 20. So if we go to 20, we can see the first note is channel 1, note 41. Hole number 21 is 1, channel 1, 42. And I think there are 66 notes, piano notes that are used. So that should go to about 85. And sure enough, 86, if the channel number is 0, then it's not mapped. You can get help by clicking over here. We've got help for an 88 note O roll or a Mills Violano. If you click on 88 note O roll, you'll get some help over here about what the tracking bars are, the hole numbers. So anyway, that's all we're going to talk about for the note mapper. So we want to load the mapping, and that's Nickelodeon.map. So that's now loaded. So now if I hit start playing and I turn on the speakers of the PC, when holes 20 through 85 are triggered, the actual notes will be played on the PC. Turn it up. So you can actually hear the entertainer being played. So now we are ready to capture the MIDI file. So we want to go to the very start of the roll. So let's go to about frame 200. And that's where you can see song 10 in the roll. Let's go ahead and start playing. Okay. So now we're just before the song starts. I want to start recording at the current frame, which is 240. Let's go to the end of the roll. Let's go to about 6,800. And that is at the end of the roll. We can see that there's no holes. Let's actually go to about 6,600. And we'll play till the end of the roll. Okay, and that's going to be where we want to stop, which is at 6781. That's our current frame. So we'll say set MIDI frame to current frame. Now it's at 6781. Let's go to frame 220, which is just before the start where we want to start at. Okay, so now we've gone back to frame 220. I want to say start recording MIDI, and then one other feature I want to discuss while it's playing is a thing called continuous fine-tuning. And what this does, as the roll is playing, the app will be analyzing the holes, and if the paper slightly moves to the left or right, it will adjust those holes locations dynamically. I'm going to say show MIDI as generated, and we'll see the MIDI being generated over here as soon as it hits frame 240. So let's go ahead and start. Okay, I'm going to mute the microphone. But as you can see in the information area, the MIDI is being generated. So now we can just watch as it's playing, and we can look for any false positives and false negatives and adjust the note on levels or note off levels or note hole width and height as necessary. But that's pretty much all there is to it. Now the app's running pretty slow right now because I'm actually running on an emulator on a Mac, and I'm also doing screen recording. So that's taking lots of CPU cycles, but it's running at a reasonable speed. And in about 3 or 4 minutes, this song will be completely done. And then we can actually generate the, or edit the MIDI file and generate it. I'm going to turn the microphone back on. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier or not, but you can see the tracking holes are moving slightly to the left and to the right, adjusting for any type of paper movement to the left or right, trying to keep those holes centered. Okay, so the MIDI file has been created, and now we will click on MIDI Generation Tools to actually edit the files and create the actual MIDI binary. Okay, so we are in the MIDI generation form here, and I want to bring up the folder where the original MIDI file was that has the video that we created of the tracker bar and the paper going over the tracker bar. And that's the, so here's the original MP4, and you'll see that there are 3 files that were created: entertainer.txt, entertainer encryption.txt, and entertainer windows.txt. So those text files have all of the MIDI commands, and they are in the same folder as the video file that you loaded. So now we can go back here. The first thing I would recommend doing is just make a copy of that MIDI file just in case you mess something up. So we can say click copy MIDI file, and we want to, let's make a copy of the Windows file, because that's the first one we're going to look at. So now there's a temporary file called temp copy. So the next thing I want to do is let's just take a look at the MIDI file. So let's look at Entertainer Windows. So here is a file that contains all of the MIDI on-off commands. And you can see it's a pretty simple file. And the timing is designed so that these time signatures here, like 2168, that's in milliseconds. So that's 2.168 seconds. These notes are going to go on, 2.368 seconds, they're going to go off, and so forth. So we can, so the first thing is let's actually listen to that MIDI file and see how it sounds. So we will click on Generate MIDI. We will click on Entertainer Windows.txt. So that sounds pretty slow. So let's do a tempo adjustment. Let's make it go about 2.5 times faster. So let's set that at 250. And doesn't matter whether this is checked or not. This just uh, indicates how you want the tempo to be adjusted. And we update tempo. Which file do you want it updated in? We're going to hit Entertainer Windows. Do you want to view the updated file? We don't need to. Do you want to convert that to a MIDI file? Yes. Do you want to listen to it in Windows Media Player? Yes. So that sounded pretty good, actually. I think let's run with that. So now we want to look at the MIDI file for the encrypted hardware, because that is the one that writes the MIDI command specifically for the Nickelodeon. And the Nickelodeon was designed to have the same encryption as a Mills Violano that's in the same collection. That's why we put it in the encrypted area. So let's view the MIDI file for encrypted. So it's the same thing, just a bunch of on-off commands. However, I want to add one additional on command, and that is to turn on the vacuum. We have a MIDI command on the Nickelodeon which will turn the vacuum on and off at the beginning. So I'm going to do a Control C, then a Control V, and we want to do this on the first millisecond, and it is channel 3, note 35. So I added that command to turn on the blower or the vacuum right at the beginning. I don't need to turn it off because the MIDI board, when it stops receiving MIDI commands at the very end, it turns off all of the channels. So I don't need to set it off. So I'm going to do a Control S to save it. And I'm going to update the tempo on encrypted. Do you want to view? Nope. Do you want to convert it to a MIDI? Yes. And the MIDI file has been translated to temp.mid. We could play it in the Windows Media Player, but it's just going to sound a bunch of gibberish because the notes are scrambled. Well, let's go ahead and do it. Okay, enough of that. So anyway, the MIDI file has now been created, and now I'm going to copy it to a thumb drive, and then we can take it to the Nickelodeon, stick it in the universal MIDI controller, and see how it plays. So let's go ahead and bring up a Windows Explorer, and we'll go to video area. So we will copy temp.mid. We will go to our Patriot thumb drive. There's a folder called Music, Master. This is where all the songs are. We don't have any songs in it, but we will put in the song that we just copied, and let's rename it to Entertainer.mid. And I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to Playlists. Coin Play, that is a playlist where the Coin Play playlist indicates what songs will be played when a coin is deposited. And we will put in the entertainer there. And that's it. So now we can go to the Nickelodeon, plug in the Patriot thumb drive, and see what the entertainer sounds like. Here's the thumb drive that we saved the MIDI file to. Before we play it though, I got to do a couple things. I need to flip a switch inside the Nickelodeon, telling it to play off of MIDI, and we need to disconnect the reader for the paper roll because it's no longer used. So first thing I'll do is flip the switch here. Okay, that's flipped. And disconnect the paper reader. Next we'll plug in the thumb drive, which has the song. And the last thing is to put a quarter in and listen to it off of MIDI. So that was the entertainer played off of a MIDI file that was created by using an iPhone to take a video of the roll and then use the visual roll reader to convert it to MIDI. So we will let you judge for yourself on the authenticity of the scan. So that's it, and thank you very much.